Chloe. Hey, John.
Hey, Raph. Hey, JG.
Hey guys, how are you? I'm so excited to be here.
I'm probably a little bit overexcited. I mean, I think I walked through the door and then Raph walked through the door. I'm like, oh my God. So this is pretty hype, and this is quite a lot earlier for us here in Australia, for Raph and I, than what we normally record elephants. That's with you being in Chicago 15 hours behind us. So yeah, it's definitely a different time, and this is probably the most excited I've been at this time in the morning since the last time I saw you in real life.
So what time is it there? What time are we filming? Are we doing?
Just gone 8 a.m.
Just gone 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty early. That's like, I see you both sitting there with your coffee.
Yeah.
And here it's 5 p.m. and I'm sitting here with a bottle of vodka. No, it's water.
I love it. I love it. So JG, obviously, like, I'm sure our listeners all know who you are, but I think, let's just on the weird off chance that someone in the Pilates stratosphere doesn't know who you are, can you give us a little intro?
Yes. Okay. My dog.
He's a household
Rex,
name, people. Household name.
Who is 2, and his name should have been spelled W-R-E-C-K-S instead of Rex, R-E-X, is about to destroy everything.
I love that. This is we all know this now that everything's online. Pets, I think pets are loving life and loving how much destruction they can cause whilst their owners are on Zoom.
Exactly. But yeah, so I'm John Garey, and I am the creator of John Garey TV, which is an online Pilates and fitness subscription service. We have now over 800 workouts, and I've recently added some fabulous teachers to the site, and I love what I do. I love teaching movement. I love movement, period. So it's like end stop, and I like to make it fun. That is kind of my thing. So I really truly believe that if it's not fun, people are less likely to continue doing it for long enough to see the benefits. And so I say, if Pilates isn't fun for you, don't do it. Do something else. Find
I've got the same mantra.
That's fun, and do it. So that's who I am, and that's what I believe.
And doing it with you kind of makes it fun, even if you're not that into Pilates. Like, you couldn't help yourself, I reckon, but have a good time.
Well, I'm kind of half stand-up, half teacher.
And John, how long have you been in the fitness industry? Remind us.
Wow, really? We're going to do that?
Well, I just think it helps give context. Like,
since
this guy knows what he's talking about. Since the inception of fitness.
Yeah. Let's just say, there are videos of me online doing crazy aerobic stuff. Yeah. I've been doing this for over 30 years. Yeah.
And we'll link to some of those awesome videos in the show notes.
Exactly the exposure I was looking for.
Anytime, JG, anytime.
And John, you and I have known each other since, I can't recall the year, but probably 2005 or 6 or something, or 7, something like that, when we were both Stop Pilates licensed training centre owners, and we met, I think it was in Toronto or somewhere like that, at an LTC conference, and we've basically been friends ever since. I've had quite a few big boozy dinners with you and Mike, and been out to your formerly JG John Garey Fitness and Pilates studio in Long Beach, and we've all had dinner together here in sunny Melbourne.
Yeah.
And so this, and you and I ran into each other in a hotel in Sydney a couple of years back when you were here.
Oh my God, that was so random.
I'm sitting there having breakfast, and who should rock up but there's John Garey and Mike.
Well, I think we should be a little more clear about that. We were all hovering over it was like a buffet, and we were all piling food on our plates.
Or did you guys all like bump into each other at the buffet?
We literally bumped into each other, yeah.
What was that moment like? Were you just
It
like,
was kind
what?
of surreal. It was like the last person you expect to see is John Garey because he lives like literally on the other side of the world. So,
Oh my God, I love that.
so I was in Sydney teaching a course or something, and John Garey was in Sydney doing workshops, and we just happened to be staying at the same hotel and
Oh my
had
gosh.
breakfast.
Was that the hotel that I came and visited you
Yeah.
at? Nice hotel.
That was a
Nice
pretty fabulous hotel.
Yeah, that was pretty fabulous. Wow, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we're going to try and explore the topic of Pilates. What is it good for? What is Pilates good for?
What is Pilates good for?
What is it good for?
What is it good for? Are we just kidding?
Well,
Are you asking me a question? Is that just like, are we stating it again? Where are we?
Well, I think there are a couple of elephants here, which are that Pilates gives you longer, leaner muscles, and Pilates will make you look like a dancer, and Pilates, it has some kind of magic about it that fixes back pain or something like that. But I think that so. I don't really want to have a big sciencey discussion about any of those things today, but because I think we've kind of talked about that in other episodes. But I think those are the things that Pilates kind of isn't really good for. But there are heaps of fucking things that Pilates is awesome for.
Well,
So I wanna talk
inadvertently,
about
it
those.
might help your back pain because general
Right.
movement,
but not because of some magic.
but not because it's got magic powers.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, do we want to talk about the elephants, or do we just want to go like, hey, check out those earlier episodes if you want to talk about those and
Yeah. What do you like? What do you think, JG?
Well, I actually came on here to talk about Harry Potter.
Oh, brilliant. Can we? Actually, I need to start reading it again. So, John reads Harry Potter. Isn't it once a year? Do you read it all again?
Once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Potter and the Magic Circle?
Oh, right.
There's the magic. I knew it was
Good
somewhere.
one. Oh my gosh, that deserved a ba-ba. All right. the drums.
Yeah, get
Wow.
those sound effects ready. I'm going to need some of those.
Harry Potter and the Magic Circle. Oh my God, it's absolutely gold. Okay, cool. I'm happy to talk about Harry Potter.
Well, what sorts of benefits can Harry Potter expect from Pilates?
Nice segue.
Well, I would imagine that there'd be some really good, like being able to stay on your broom during Quidditch. I'm sure they should incorporate Pilates into their Quidditch.
Well, Ron
practice.
Fletcher did a towel workout, so why not a broom workout?
Did I not? Oh my gosh. I feel like someone has used the broom. Did I not tell you guys both? I feel like I can't, maybe the time that I was the first aid officer for a Quidditch match. Did I tell either of you this story?
You told me.
Did I tell you? Did I tell you, John?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Raph, I haven't told you. Well, I haven't told the listeners. Just a little segue here. I tell you what, it's a freaking brutal sport. And and I'm thinking, they'll need maybe some bandages, some Band-Aids, some ice. Within, no joke, 5 minutes of this full-on contact sport where they're riding things that like PVC pipes and just really anything that could mimic a broom but was actually something very, very dangerous. Within 5 minutes, there was a very broken arm, like I'm talking snapped in half arm. Turned out he did get a clean break through the radius and ulna because he sent me the x-ray afterwards. So that
Did you
showed
give him
up
some
in my first
Skelegro?
You win this game, you win. And then apart from the really broken arm, which for me was a little much to handle at that stage of the game, there was an impalement on said broom.
Oof.
Yup. And I'm just like,
Oh.
I'm not getting paid enough for this. Like, what is even going on here? Anyway, we digress. So I would get people to avoid Quidditch. People think Pilates is dangerous, and I got nothing in comparison with Quidditch. Don't ride PVC pipes, people. Don't. Anyway, I love the way this podcast is going. It's getting really out there really quickly. So Pilates,
Yes.
What is it good for? Well, I personally, and I've spoken for me, I think about what is Pilates good for. And I just particularly love for want of a better word, the movement meditation kind of thing. For me, it's flow state. I think you both and my listeners know me enough to know that I have a hard time winding it down. So whenever I'm doing a Pilates class, I'm not thinking about anything else. And that goes for teaching it as well, which is why I've always, I just love teaching so much. When I'm teaching, I'm 100% present. And when I'm doing Pilates, going through the exercises, I'm not thinking about, like, if I've had a shitty day or if I've got to do chores or if I've got whatever, nothing. So that, for me, that's what Pilates is good for. Plus, my body always feels really good after it. Just does. That's what I love about it. What do you love about Pilates, John?
So I really think that, it depends on what kind of Pilates you're talking about, because, Pilates has so many, all of the styles are different and they kind of approach different things. To me, when I think of Pilates, I think of an athletic version of it. That's the style that I teach. So what I love about it is the challenge. I love, and if you've ever taken a workshop from me or a class from me, you know that I don't tend to want you to use the recommended number of springs, because because what the heck does that mean? Everybody's so different.
Yeah.
And the point of exercise is to get a challenge. So to me, it's finding the exercise and then deciding how to challenge the person with that exercise. So does that mean adding resistance? Does that mean taking away resistance? Depending on, what the exercise is. I love that part of it. I love programming to challenge people. And I like the athleticism of it. I like the fact that, when I started, I found the really simple things that you're supposed to do to be very, very hard for me, because it didn't feel athletic.
Right.
Some of it felt a little silly to me. Some of it, I could not figure out what the point of the exercise was. But it is a system. And as you kind of progress through the system, it makes more sense. To me, it made more sense. And I could see how something like stomach massage actually assisted you in learning to do the elephant, then it assisted you in learning to do other things. So I saw how I felt like I understood what he wanted to do in terms of how all of the movements kind of built on each other. Because, I come from a fitness background. So I have that whole thing of progressive overload in my head. And so, I get the fact that you're not going to start somebody on the snake, you want to kind of build them up to doing that so that they can support themselves. So I like that part of it. And I feel that it's good. I think I sent you guys a message when we were kind of setting this up. I think that Pilates is really good for Pilates. So if you like that system of exercise, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I like that. I like perfecting it. I like seeing where you can move your body, how you can move your body to make those exercises look better and better and better. So to me, there's an aesthetic, really an aesthetic part to it. And there's a strength part to it. And there's a mobility part to it. I think all of those things kind of combine into the system.
Oh, I just love Pilates is really good for Pilates. John Garey. I really like that's like, I love that.
I got a brain explosion emoji, John, when you said, you wouldn't give everybody the same size dumbbell, like essentially, like if we're all going to go in and do bicep curls in the gyms, like you wouldn't go, okay, we recommend 2.5 kilos for everyone. It's like people have different strength. And for some reason, when we're picking up a dumbbell, that seems blindingly obvious. But on a reformer, it's like, oh, we're going to do
Footwork.
bicep curls. Everybody do one red spring.
Yeah, or footwork, 3 springs, or long stretch, 1 spring. It's very prescriptive like that, isn't it? It's like, that's the spring you use for that exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part has never made sense to me.
And if you change it, the Pilates police get you.
Well, you know, I think our clients, and I hear this from subscribers, I get a lot of messages saying, I can't use the same springs that you use. And I try to say this in a lot of my workouts. You're not supposed to.
Right.
You're supposed to use the springs you need. You're supposed to use the springs that work for you in this exercise, and for where you're at now. And for where you want to go, those springs are going to change, because I'm not using the same springs now for an exercise that I use later on, and just, you know, that I used before. The springs should change if you want to change your body.
Yeah, that's a quotable moment.
That's really, the spring should change if you want to change your body. Oh, I'm loving this. This is absolutely brilliant.
Has everybody else had the same experience that I'm just about to own up to, which is like posting something on Instagram, like Pilates, doing a Pilates reformer exercise, either posting on Instagram or Facebook, or in my case, we were taking photographs for a teaching manual, and positioning the camera so that it can't see the springs. You know, so the camera's down at the same height as the carriage rails. So it's like you're doing long stretch, but you're doing it on, like, you know, 2 red springs or something. So it's really easy to hold.
I'm just gonna pop a little hand up here. Caroline and I, my dear friend Caroline, when we used to film little things together at the well and whatnot, it'd be like, no one's going to be able to see your springs. Just choose the spring where you can really nail the exercise. No one knows. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh, yeah, true. And it's so weird. You have this little, like, oh, is that oh, yeah, okay.
You never do that, though, John.
That is so funny, because we were, we provide notes for every single one of our workouts. And part of what we do, it's unique to provide notes anyway, but part of what we do in the notes that's really unique is we put a thumbnail image of each exercise. And so at the end of the workout, I will go through the whole workout again, and Eric, our videographer, will take a still image of each exercise, each position. And I ask him almost every exercise, can you see the springs? Can you see the springs? And it's not necessarily that, okay, it sounds terrible, but it's not necessarily that I'm doing it on a particular spring that makes it easier or harder to do. It's just that I'm lazy and I want to get the images done, and I don't feel like changing the springs to what I recommended that they were. So so I do that all the time. Can you see the springs, Eric? Can you see the springs? Do I have to change them?
So, John, I just think that's so incredible. Like, not only do you supply the notes, you know, the exercises and the springs, you also have a visual thumbnail of each exercise for the entire class.
Yeah, and we do it in the order that the class is. So, you know, for an instructor, it's great because, you know, I've seen notes incredible. And I've written notes that, you know, you can't even figure out what the exercise is from what's written. Whereas, you know, and not all of us call every exercise the same. Yeah. I've learned, you know, so if you see the kind of, we give you the sometimes it's the start position of the exercise, but sometimes it's the meat of the exercise. Like where are you when you need to see the picture of what's this exercise all about? Mm-hmm. So we just give you that image. And so an instructor can kind of take those notes and they can go, they don't have to have, you know, especially if they're like my age, they don't have to put their reading glasses on. They can see the image and they just go one by the other if they want to follow that for their class. So I found it makes it really easy for me because I don't have to write 1,000 words for every exercise. And it makes it really, really accessible to the person who's looking at the notes.
Brilliant.
Hey, I want to chime in with a couple of sort of intangible benefits, I think, like things that Pilates is great for, around community and hanging out with like-minded people, you know, because that, like, we teach people to be instructors. But I mean, I've owned a studio for a decade or so, and that's one of the things that people just have said to me. It must be thousands of times over the years. Is like, I love this so much because I get to hang out with people who are into the same things that I'm into, and it's just fun to be able to geek out about all of this stuff together. You know, like just. Because when I'm around my friends, they're all like, "Oh God, I roll. You're going to talk about Pilates again," you know. But when I'm here with the Pilates crew, it's like we're just all here and we're all into it, and it's like I feel like I'm amongst my friends and Pilates family, you know. So I think that's really important for a lot of people.
I actually found that, because that was one of the things that I was concerned about, and losing that when the world. I'm going to say the word pivot. I haven't said cage line yet in an episode. Cage line. There's a push-up competition. Oh my gosh! And John Garey loves a push-up. You are the king of push-ups, right?
I love a push-up.
We've got a listener push-up competition. Every time I say cage lion, there's a push-up. But when the world pivoted online back in early 2020, I was thinking, because one of the things I personally also loved was the community, going into the studio, hanging around, having a chat afterwards, all of that. And I thought, we're going to lose that. That's now gone. And I think we spoke about this in some detail in our episode on teaching online. And what I did when I first set up my Zoom reformer class was I said, okay, everyone, I'm going to keep it. We're going to have an extra half an hour at the end. You don't have to hang around if you don't want to. If you just want to head off after class, head off after class. But otherwise, we're going to hang back for half an hour. You can, if you want to chat about, you know, some of the exercises we did, if you want to chat about what you did last night, if you want to chat about how you're feeling. And from there, it turned out everyone hung around, and that became then this beautiful community. And now we have an Instagram private message chat, which is the community as well. And it just grew and grew and grew. So yes, community is so important, and community can also be created just as easily online. But it's a huge part of why we love Pilates.
You just got through telling me before we came on air that you've set up our current intake in the certificate to have their first practice teaching session together as a coffee date. You know?
Yeah. So John, we just had a new group. So it's, oh my God, it's so freaking lovely to see people at that. And I'm at that start, you know, that starting point. They've made the leap. I really love Pilates. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm all the things. And we have an O week now, John, which is just beautiful. So I did their O week lecture on the weekend, and I wanted to encourage them to get together. So as a practice teaching session, they do this on Zoom. They're having a coffee meet up to talk about why they love Pilates, basically.
What a great topic. Everyone loves to talk about
that.
Yeah,
and all the coffee dates have been arranged, and it's just, it's lovely.
Hey, John, you know, I might be a few years out of date here, because the last time you and I talked about your platform was a while ago, but I seem to remember that, you know, your audience, or your typical kind of, the person who uses your platform is an instructor who's kind of, you know, possibly isolated geographically, you know, maybe they're in some kind of rural area or something. Is that still the case for you?
It definitely started out that way. So it was really, that was our avatar when we were creating the online business 6 years ago, was to be able to reach an instructor who was in the middle of, you know, Iowa, that didn't have access to, you know, to somebody like I would have access to living in Long Beach, California. I could go either direction and study with, like, you know, 20 different master trainers. So I really wanted to create that, but also I had traveled around the world so much and teaching instructors, and instructors would always say, "Can you come back next year?" Well, you know, I would love to, but it's a difficult thing to do. So I also wanted to be able to reach people who I had taught in person, and then that I already had a connection with, and be able to have them take with me online. After the first year, I realized that we were having a ton of just participants who already, wanted to work out. They were looking for online Pilates, and some of them had reformers, some of them didn't. But that seemed to be the trend. And then when everything transitioned because of the pandemic, a lot more just everyday participants who had been working out regularly at studios jumped on. So now the majority of our subscribers are actually not instructors, but we do have a really good number of instructors as well. And I really like that, because we have a private member page as well, which I think is so important, because you want that community. You want that connection. People, that's one of the greatest things about doing Pilates in a studio is, you basically see the same people every day, and it creates this wonderful, wonderful friendships and all those great things. And I wanted to make sure that we were still able to let our subscribers have that experience. And it's really fun to see somebody pose a question about an exercise on our page, and then to see all these different instructors chime in and talk about it. And, it's wonderful. That is definitely one of the best things about Pilates. And I think, a lot of the kind of niche, I'm not sure CrossFit is really niche, but that's one of the things you hear about CrossFit as well, is the community is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think yoga has the same thing. Yoga studios have the same thing. Probably boutique gyms, all kinds of boutique gyms have that. I think it's just one of the most positive things that comes out of Pilates, and what Pilates is really good for is just allowing that community to happen. And I'm so glad that we can do that online now as well as in person. It makes a huge difference.
I'm because I'm on that page as well, and I love it. I love seeing all your subscribers. You feel like you're all there and kind of hanging out in a studio together. It's really interactive, isn't it?
Yeah, and we
They're
don't do
awesome.
live, like you do live classes, which is so cool, because everybody on Zoom, they're all doing it together, so you get that kind of collective feeling.
Yeah.
Ours are pre-taped.
Yeah, but it's still, and they talk about, it's so great. Raph, they go on and someone will say, oh, I did a workout. It was freaking awesome, and this is why. And then someone will jump in, oh yeah, I did that. Like it's really cool how they're
it's like sharing recipes.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. Yeah. And you're on
It's
there.
really
You've
fun.
got you're a really active presence on the page. It's you've done really awesome, John. I really love that page.
Something that
Thank you.
that we hear, and I know you hear this as well, Chloe, and John, I'm sure you've heard this a bunch of times over the years, is our students, because we say at the start of the course of every training, what do you love about Pilates, and people share what they love about Pilates, and there are always things about strength and flexibility and fitness and
Toning,
all of that stuff. And then there's the community, friends, like-minded folk. But then there's a huge kind of word cloud of ideas around it. It's for me. It's me time. It gave me back my sense of identity after I had a baby. It helps calm me mentally and get me out of my monkey mind.
Mental health.
Yeah, mental health. Thank you. Those are the words I'm looking for.
Because I've just been through this word cloud with them on the weekend.
Yeah.
And you've nailed it. There's both of those sides, and quite evenly, actually. Yeah.
And so I think, and obviously, you can get that from CrossFit. You can get it from yoga. You can get it from all different kinds of things. But some people get it more from Pilates and wouldn't get it from CrossFit, So I think that's important. Let's have a chat about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing about what is Pilates good for, because one of the things, I am a fitness junkie, and I've been a fitness junkie my entire life. So when I started
John,
doing Pilates,
sorry, can I just interrupt with a very brief anecdote here? That one time when you came to stay with us in Melbourne, like this is more than a decade ago now, when you were delivering trainings at our studio, you disappeared to the gym literally 3 hours a day, every day.
What are you saying? I still do that.
And this was before coming back to teach like 5 hours worth of workshops. So anyway, I think I acknowledge that you are a fitness junkie. Please proceed.
But you know, one of the things that Pilates did, it like really stopped me in my tracks because it was so different than anything else I had done. And it required me to really think about what I was doing. It gave me such a great sense of body awareness, which I did not have. I had no clue about, holding one part of your body steady while you're moving another part, and how tricky that is. It's, if you're not sure where your pelvis is, which everybody should always know where their pelvis is, by the way. It's a really good rule in life. But if you don't know where your pelvis is, then how the heck do you know that you're holding it still while you're moving another part of your body or whatever? So, whether that's good for anything or not, who knows? But the fact that you have to become aware of all of those things happening, it was like, wow. And then what happens from there? And then what can I do from here? And then all of a sudden, when you start progressing, it gets very gymnastic-y, which is right in my wheelhouse, hanging by one finger off of the foot bar while you're, I love that kind of stuff. That is, to me, that's the money right there.
And I've done one or two of your athletic workshops, and I think I've still got some residual DOMs more than a decade later.
I was just going to say, I'm still sore. Absolutely. I just look at him and my abs start hurting. No, seriously.
Okay. All right. True confessions here. I have to tell you guys that I just started working with a trainer because I love that. I love to go somewhere and have somebody tell me what to do. Yeah. And I found a trainer, like when everything opened up here and I felt comfortable going out because I've been vaccinated and all that stuff. I found a trainer who trains from his house, and I actually just came from a session before I met with you guys. And it's only my second session, and I am obsessed with it already. I can't wait to go back. And he had me doing things that I was like, ooh, I can incorporate this into my next, reformer work. I can see how I can put that on the reformer. And I love that part of it. And that's one of the things that I hope that teachers for sure and participants will allow themselves to do is explore on the reformer. And yes, the original exercises, that's why we all got into it. That's why we all love it. But it's also fun to explore and to try different things. And, sometimes it doesn't work. It's a total train wreck. And sometimes it's like, oh, wow, that works so well on here. And I can see how that adapts. Yeah. So I hope that people aren't afraid to try different things and to take from different people from different schools and just listen to what they have to say. You don't have to agree with it or even ever do it again. But, it's really fun to explore, to go out and explore. And I think that a lot of people think that they have to do it the way they were taught forever. Yeah. And I don't think that's really good for you.
Yeah.
In the long run.
I think, there are these three things that we've talked about, three kind of broad categories, like, the physical, the challenge, the excitement of progressing and getting stronger and more flexible and learning to do new stuff you couldn't do before, and the community and also the mental health side of things. And so, let's workshop in the last part of the program, like, okay, if I'm an instructor in Iowa, or if I'm a studio owner, or if I'm teaching online, how do I maximize those benefits for my participants? How do I maximize those things to so people just get more of what's awesome about Pilates? Add more springs.
I see Chloe looking at me.
I love what John just said about keeping as a teacher, keeping exploring and keeping your creative juices flowing, so that you can keep that spark afresh, I think, as a teacher, because if you've got that excitement and joy in you, that's really palpable for for your students, that they can feel that. And I think whilst clients, students, whatever we want to call them, I feel like they're the same thing. There's comfort in repetition, and you want to learn something and get good at it. But then there's also that excitement and fun, and it can be really fun when you're like, as a teacher, you're like, hey, we're going to try something new today. Let's just give it a go. And it's kind of like a collaboration as well, because, as John said, sometimes it really works. Sometimes it's like, like I've got I've got a whole packed out reformer room into something new and creative that I haven't, it's like I'm just winging it. And then we all kind of look at each other, like me and my students, kind of go, what are we kind of doing here? What are you asking me to do? I'm like, it's not really working, is it? Let's go. It's like, and make it a collaboration. And John, that always resonated very early on in my career, because obviously you've been a mentor of mine for the last, 8+ years now. And I'll never forget the first day I met you. It was like, that was actually probably the maximum excitement levels reached in my entire existence.
You literally picked me up.
I've seen the photo. Yeah.
We looked across the room at each other, and I went, it's you. And threw ourselves into each other's arms, and it's been a great friendship ever since. Well, we were friends before, right? We'd met online.
Yeah.
But I remember early on, I've got so many pieces of JG wisdom in my brain that I pull out regularly and think about regularly. But when you said, particularly if you were auditioning a new instructor for your studio, if you make a mistake, just own it. Like, if you stuff up, just own it. Just own it. And that resonated with me so much. And ever since that moment, I've always just owned it, and, laughed it off with my clients, or laughed it off with an employer, or laughed it off, like, people are human, and that actually endears you to your students and your clients, as opposed to, can kind of get awkward when you're trying to cover up something that's like, just laugh it off.
Yeah, I think that both builds, like, normalizes making mistakes, and helps people to do that themselves and thus progress more. But also sort of builds community, because people feel like, oh yeah, you've been a little bit vulnerable with me, and that's that makes people feel closer.
Yeah, so that would be one of, that's resonated with me. And whenever I stuff up in a masterclass, oh my gosh, the students love it. That's the most DMs I get. Oh, I really loved it when you stuffed up there. Now I feel like, I can do it. Like, I feel like you're real. I'm like, I'm really real. I'm so real. They love a mistake. Love it.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's really true. And I think that, I think you both said it really authenticates you with your tribe. It really shows your vulnerability. And to me, that's part of, I do a whole thing about the instructors having what I call the it factor, or what is known as the it factor. And part of that is being able to show your vulnerability. And that is being okay with making a mistake. I can be the most prepared I've ever been for a presentation, and actually, Chloe, when we were doing, I get nervous before I present every single time, and I love it. I love to get nervous because I know I'm going to be on point. I know my brain's going to be firing on all cylinders. And, I think if you prepare and you have that before you teach, you have that little bit of nervousness. I still get it when I teach live. And I think it really is helpful. And it also, it's going to show your personality. And I think that all of these things, building that community, having people want to take class from you, and pay you money, is all about you being able to make that connection with them, a real connection. And, obviously know your craft, become a master at it. But also be able to shine a light on yourself when you're teaching. And whether you do that on camera or whether you do that in person, I think that will help create this atmosphere that we're talking about of what makes Pilates good.
I love that.
I think I love what you said also, both you guys, about taking classes from other instructors, and John, how you've been inspired by your personal trainer, and you're thinking like, oh yeah, great, I can incorporate that in JGTV, and I think with now, like you said, Chloe, Pilates, embracing online, it's so awesome that now we can actually I know a lot of people who kind of, flip through Instagram looking for inspiration, going, oh, where's a cool exercise or whatever that I can, and I know a lot of people that do that a lot and don't find anything that inspires them, because it's not a really good search strategy, I think, just randomly scrolling through Instagram. But I mean, you can actually seek out the best people in the world and go do sessions with them. Like you can literally take sessions with the best people.
Incredible what has happened to the fitness and the Pilates world in particular since early 2020.
Well, you did some classes with Jean-Claude Nelson in Belgium. Germany. In Germany,
I did 9 classes with him, like from Bluebird Pilates. It was nuts. Like to me that's phenomenal how it's just opened up the world now, and it's made. You can actually apprentice
with anybody you want to without them even knowing it. You can just.
This is so true.
Hi, you don't know this, but I've been your apprentice for the last 5 years. We've never met.
Actual gold. Oh, I love that so much. Yes,
and I do. Yeah. I mean, there's people I'm intimidated to reach out to, but I'm like, my niece would say you creep on them. I follow everything they do. I'm obsessed with them, and I think that's a great thing. As long as you're positive about it. Don't get really,
Yeah, I
think it's a really good thing.
It's so cool. Yeah. It's super cool. Oh, I love that. I've been apprenticing. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've learned heaps from you, John, and also from you, Chloe. I don't just mean today. I mean, like in general, just from watching your work and I don't know if I've consciously copied anything from either of you, but I feel like there are elements of each of you that come out when I teach. So I think that's fantastic, and I think there's a lot in that. What you say, John. I mean, I know you said it kind of flippantly, but I think. Just hanging out with people enough, stuff, you absorb stuff, unconsciously, and it just comes out. And like, I remember, many times I've been teaching and I've said something like, oh, that's straight out of so-and-so's mouth. What I just said.
Yeah.
Or even just the programming or whatever. And I haven't thought I'm going to use so-and-so's sequence. It's just like you program, you're like, oh, hold on. Yeah, that's from such and such a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a part of, I don't know if you guys have read the book Mastery.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it's one of my favorite books just about, what it takes to actually master your craft. And it goes through all of these people in history and what they did to master their craft in all different, industries and in all different kind of work. And it's a really cool thing to do. And I think that is, to me, that is truly what makes Pilates good for so many people, is just geeking out on it and allowing yourself to geek out on it and living it and figuring out, following whoever and really learning everything they have to teach you, whether it's a Breathe education or whatever school it is, and really just absorb everything you can and get those 10,000 hours in that it takes to master something, which is years, comes down to years. And then from there, you're able to start to like what Raph was just saying, is all of a sudden you're teaching and other things start to come into your head because you're so comfortable with the material that you have that you're able to start to see how you can change it and kind of make it your own or improve on different things. And that's really mastery.
What a great place to leave it.
I want to hang out with John all day.
This was so fun.
Go.
Oh, I have to say really quickly before we wrap it up that I have been listening to you guys. I've told you this, but I have been listening to you guys, and I absolutely love your podcast. I love it. I love the topics. I love how cutting edge you are. I love that you're unapologetic about stuff. And so if you're listening for the first time, people listening to this podcast, and you've made it this far, I haven't bored you to tears, then go and listen to some of the other podcasts, all of them if you can, because they're really phenomenal. And I appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Oh, John, the feeling's so mutual.
Did you see me go a bit speechless there for a minute? It's huge to me. I mean, you're one of my greatest heroes and dearest friends, and been such an inspiration from the get-go of, from when I was very first starting to be a Pilates instructor, and I watched you in all the advanced videos and was just like, this guy is just phenomenal. And then, finding out you were such a lovely person as well. So to hear someone who's such a huge, like, I look up to you so much, say something like that is, very, gets me emotional. So it's huge for me. Thank you, JG.
Well, thank you. Said from the heart.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Chloe.
Thank you, Raph.
Thanks, guys.
So fun.
Bye.
Bye.